All right, folks, let's go ahead and do this. This is homework number 2 in chapter 9. All right, so I'm going to start with number 17, move on to 18, and then we're going to wrap it up with number 23. All right, so 17 looks like it's you're just solving the inequality, and then you're going to go ahead and you graph it or represent your solution on a number line. All right, so letter A, let's start over here. And then go ahead and distribute that 3 to the stuff that's inside the parentheses. So we will have 3 times 2k, which is going to give us 6k, and then minus, and then 3 times 1 is going to be 3. And all that's going to be less than 9. All right, so you're going to go ahead and continue and work your way towards solving for k. All right, so you need to get rid of that negative 3 by doing the inverse operation of adding 3 to both sides. That 3 is going to take out the negative 3, and you'll be left with 6k, and that's all you're really copying down. And then you do have to figure out what 9 plus 3 is. So use a calculator if you don't know, but that's going to give you 11 or 12. Okay. Then now you're going to get rid of that times 6, and the inverse of times 6 would be a division by 6. That division by 6 is going to take out the times 6, and you'll be left with k and less than, and you're going to figure out what 12 divided by 6 is. If you don't know, use a calculator. That's going to give you an answer of 2. I remember how I was showing you how to graph this. All you really need is just a number line with a number 2, and then you're going to go ahead and put your dot in, and then there's no underline like how I'm drawing it right now. So that means that you're going to leave it as an open dot, and then you're going to shade. And because the K is on the left-hand side, it's a proper way to write it. I'm going to go ahead and follow the arrow, and the arrow points to the left in this case because it's a less than. So we're going to go ahead and shade everything to the left of that dot. Make sure you put an arrow at the end. Okay, just like that. Okay, B. So it's going to be 2p divided by 5 less than or equal to 6. You can do this in multiple steps. All right, so let's go ahead and say, since it's division by 5, let's go ahead and multiply both sides by 5, because that's the inverse or the opposite of divided by 5. So that multiplication by 5 is going to take out that division by 5, and you will have 2p is going to be less than or equal to, and now you just got to figure out what 6 times 5 is. That's going to be 30. Okay. And now you got to do the inverse operation of times 2, or p times 2, which is going to be a division by 2. And again, that 2 is going to cancel with the division by 2. And you'll be left, and you would have p less than or equal to, and again, you got to figure out what 30 divided by 2 is. That's going to be 15. Right, and the awesome thing about graphing, like how I showed you guys, is you don't have to worry about writing down all the numbers. Your boundary point is 15, so you're going to just put 15 anywhere you want within this number line. Let's say 15 is a little bit towards the top, so we'll put 15 towards the top. Okay, you're going to go ahead and put your circle around it, your dot. And then in this case, because it has no underline, like how I'm showing you right now, has no underline, you're going to go ahead and shade in that dot. And then you're going to go ahead and shade. And because the P is in the proper location on the left side, you're going to go ahead and follow that arrow, which the arrow is pointing. You can see what I'm doing on the screen. It's going to be going to, the arrow is going to be going to the left. So you're going to go ahead and shade to the left. Okay, make sure you go pretty much all the way through and then draw an arrowhead at the end. All right. Just look at C. So C is negative 2 plus 8n greater than 2. And you're going to go ahead and you notice that there's an 8n on that, but it's towards the back. Okay, you want to get rid of that negative 2 first. So the inverse operation of minus 2 is a positive 2. So you're adding 2 to both sides. That minus 2 and the positive 2 is going to cancel. and you will be left with 8n greater than, and you just got to figure out what 2 plus 2 is, which is 4. Right, and then now you got to work on this. 8 times n, the opposite of times 8 is going to be division by 8. So that inverse operation is going to allow you to cancel and have an n left over. It's greater than, and 4 divided by 8. If you use a calculator, you get 0.5. But if you use reducing, you can divide both 4 and 8 by 4. And you will get 4 divided by 4 on top of the fraction, which is going to be 1. And you get 8 divided by 4 on the bottom of the fraction, which would be 2. So 0.5 is okay, but I like 1/2. All right, so either one's fine. And draw your number line. And again, the beautiful thing about this is that you don't have to know where exactly in relation to each other. You're just going to put a little mark for 1/2 or 0.5. Then you're going to go ahead and put a dot around it. And this one's going to be open because there's no underline. And if you follow the arrow, like this arrowhead like this, because the n is on the left-hand side, this is the proper way to write it. The arrow, you draw the arrow, you can see that it wants you to shade to the right. So we're going to go ahead and shade to the right. Okay, let's do one more. We'll throw it up here. We'll do D up here. Right? So we'll do D right here. Okay. All right, so D, looks like there's a couple of things we can do. Let's see, we can, let's get rid of the -4 first. So let's go add 4. Okay, which is the inverse of -4, which is going to cancel that, but it also cancels this. It actually makes it 0. So you're left with 7t greater than 2t. All right, let's go ahead and put all the t's on one side. So we're going to go ahead and start with the smaller one, and we're going to do the inverse of that, which is -2t and -2t. And by doing inverse, we're allowed to cancel out the 2 t's, and we're left with 5t greater than 0 divided by 5, because it is times 5. We're left with t greater than 0. So this one's a really easy one because you're just going to draw a small number line with a 0 in right about the middle. Okay, and go ahead and put a circle around it where 0 is, not shaded in because there's no underline, or that means that t is not equal to 0. And then if you use your arrow, okay, this one's going to be saying shade to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and shade to the right. Okay, so you can fit it somewhere down below. All right, that's number 17, A, B, C, D. Okay, 18. See, this one says, Stu wrote the following inequality for a problem that she was solving: 2n minus 1 less than 5, or 2n minus 1 greater than -5. Which of the following statement is true? Right. So basically, you have two equations. You have 2n minus 1 less than 5, and you also have 2n minus 1 greater than 5. Okay, so let's solve each one. Okay, and they're both going to be the same. You see that they're all the same numbers. Only thing that's different is just the inequality. So I'm going to go ahead and do this two birds with one stone, right? So do two equations at once. So I'm going to go ahead and do inverse operation of -1. So I'm going to go +1 and +1. And then for this other equation, it's going to be the same thing, +1 and +1. Okay, they won't give you the same answer, so don't count on them being the same answer. Okay, 5 plus 1 is going to give you 6. And then you're going to have less than, and then 2n. Okay, and this one's going to cancel out 2. And 5 plus 1 is going to give you 6. But in this case, you're going to have greater than. And it's going to be 2n is greater than 6. Right, so it's going to be very similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same. Right, we're going to go ahead and do the inverse of times 2, which is divided by 2. You're going to do that here, and it's the same thing here. So times 2, you're going to do division by 2. And by doing that, you're allowed to cancel the division and multiplication of 2. You have n less than 6. And you have n greater than, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So it's not 6, it's actually 3. All right, so n less than 3 and n greater than 3. So let's look at these up here. None of them. So what went wrong? Oh, I see it. Look, right here. I didn't copy the negative 5. So right here should be negative 5. So quick fix. So negative 5 and negative 5 and positive 1. It's going to give you a 4. Sorry, negative 4. And negative 4 divided by 2 is going to give you a negative 2. All right, let's try this again. Okay, so now let's see which one works. All right, so n is greater than 3. So it's this one and this one. Or sorry, n is less than 3. So it's those two, and actually this one also. But n is greater than negative 2. So which is only this one. Yep. So only correct answer is D. All right. Okay, let's look at the last one. Consider the sequence 2, 8, 3y plus 5, ... Find the value of y if the sequence is arithmetic. All right, so let's look at two scenarios. One's arithmetic. I'll put arithmetic. And one's geometric. Okay. So if it's arithmetic, remember arithmetic means that you're adding or subtracting the same thing every subsequent number. So if it starts with 2, and the next number is 8, the next number is 3y plus 5. Okay, let's see what the pattern is, right? So from 2 to 8, we're actually adding 6. So that means from 8 to this next number, we should also be adding 6, right? So that next number should be what? All right, so 8 plus 6 is what? 14. So this next number should be equal to 14, right? But it's 3y plus 5. So they wanted you to figure out, or your job is to figure out what the y is. So if 3y plus 5 is supposed to equal 14, then that's what you write down. You're going to write down 3y plus 5 equals 14, because this would make an arithmetic sequence. You're going to solve for that y, because that's what you're supposed to look for. Solve for the value of y. All right, so you're going to go ahead and basically what we were doing on the other side, except this is an equation. It has an equal. So you're going to minus 5. And you have 3y equals, and 14 minus y is 11. Right? Oh, actually, not 11. 14 minus 5. Use a calculator if you're having some difficulty, but 14 minus 5 is 9. Excuse me. Then you're going to go ahead and get rid of that times 3 by doing division by 3. And you would get your y would be equal to 3. So if it's arithmetic and the third term is supposed to be 14, your y has to be 3. Okay. Let's look at what happens if it's geometric. So 2, 8, 3y plus 5. Right? So if it's geometric, then to go from one term to the next, you're going to multiply. So 2 times 4. So times 4, it gives you 8. 8 times 4 gives you, and you should be getting 32 as your next number, as your third number. All right, so that's what you're going to write down. You're going to write down 3y plus 5. That should give me 32. And we're trying to figure out what y is if it's geometric. So same story, right? I mean, your steps are right here already. All right, so you're going to go ahead and subtract 5. Okay, except this time you won't be getting the same answer. Okay, you'll be using the same steps. So inverse or opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. So you have 3y equals, and 32 minus 5 is what? 237 or 27, excuse me. 27